Welcome to my Yoast SEO tutorial for beginners as well as for advanced users. I love the Yoast SEO plugin. It's 100% free. You don't have to buy anything. You don't have to even upgrade to a premium plan of it to get really good results. I use the Yoast SEO plugin on all of my niche websites and blogs as well as for the websites of my customers. I'm here inside the analytics account for just one of my niche sites. I've got a few different niche sites, and you can see that I get anywhere from 800 to 1,000 page views a day just on this website. And a big part of the success of this niche website is that I use Yoast SEO on it. So I really wanted to record this Yoast SEO tutorial so that you can also get maximum traffic for your website or for your blog, for your e-com store. I also noticed that when I search for Yoast SEO tutorial on YouTube, all of the tutorials here on the front page are actually quite old. They're between 1 to 2 years old. This tutorial is completely up to date for the newest version of WordPress as well as for the newest version of Yoast SEO plugin. So what does the Yoast SEO plugin actually do? Let's search for one of the keyword terms such as best fall activities in Minnesota. And if we click search, you will see that the second website that comes up is my travel blog, Travel Croc, here for fall activities in Amman. And in summary, Yoast SEO plugin allows you to make sure that your website or your blog ranks as high as possible in Google search results. And it achieves it through a lot of different things. Some of the things you can see in the search results and some are sort of invisible and they work in the background. As an example, through the Yoast SEO plugin, you can control this snippet that comes up right next to each of the search results, and you can control a bunch of other variables. As an example, you can see that this result below, it's just a snippet, automatic snippet from the actual post on this website. You can see this ... It means that this post is not actually optimized for search engines. It doesn't have a custom meta description, and Yoast SEO allowed me to do it, and I think this is why it helped me rank for this key phrase. So the first thing that you'll want to do is to install Yoast SEO. So I have gone back into my travel blog, travelcroc.com, and I have deleted the plugin. So I'm going to do this step by step with you guys on the screen. So the first thing that you'll want to do is going to log into your WordPress admin area and then go into plugins and click add new, or just click on the plugins if you don't see these submenus, and it will display the submenu for you. So then just click add new, and you will then want to search for the plugin. So under search plugins, type in Yoast SEO and click enter, and the first result that comes up should be the Yoast SEO plugin. Click install now. Once it's installed, click activate. Then go into the installed plugins on the left hand side once again and scroll down to Yoast SEO and click on the settings menu option. You can see here that I've got a message SEO settings configured. This is because I used to have this plugin installed. I have removed the plugin to record this tutorial. You will have an option to run the configuration wizard by default, and that's what I'm going to do as well to show you step by step the best way to set up Yoast SEO plugin. So somewhere on the screen, locate an option that says run the configuration wizard, and that's what I'm going to do here as well so that we can be in sync. The first screen will ask you if your site is already currently live or if you are currently building the site. So option A, choose that if your site is live and it is ready to be indexed by search engines, and choose option B if you're currently still building your site, you would like to install the plugin but you're still not ready to publicly reveal it. I'm going to go with option A because my site is live and I just want to start using Yoast SEO plugin to start helping me drive more traffic and rank higher on Google. So let's click option A and then click next. In the second step, choose what's most appropriate, whether it's a blog, online shop, news channel, corporation portfolio, or something else. I'm going to choose a blog because this is a travel blog, so I'm going to click next after that. In the third step, you will need to provide some details about your organization or person. So here I will choose the organization. I will enter it as Travel Croc. That's my business name. And then where it says provide an image for the organization logo, you can either choose an existing image. So if you didn't have an image before, you'll just have an option which says choose an image. So then you'll be required to upload that image from your hard drive. If you have any social media profiles already created for this particular website, then you can insert the URLs to all of them here. Just note that for Twitter, you want to use your username. So here you can put Travel Croc as the username. To the rest of them, if you've got a Facebook page or an Instagram or a LinkedIn page for your business, put in the full URL into these areas. For example, for the Facebook page URL, I can copy and paste the URL of my Facebook page, facebook.com/travelcock. After you've done all of this, then click next on the screen. Next, the wizard is going to ask you whether you want to show your posts, your pages, and your legal pages in search results. I recommend to say yes to all of them. There is no real reason for you not to show them. If you've got any specific requirements, you can of course choose no, but generally, if you are running Yoast SEO, if you've got a blog, you want to get as much traffic as possible. So of course you would choose yes to all of these. So let's click next. After that, go ahead and choose whether your site is going to have multiple authors. For most small blogs, you should choose no. If your site is quite a sizable site and you want to actually have different authors contributing under different names, then you want to choose yes. I personally use writers who write the content for me on all of my blogs. If you have writers as well, then you probably should choose no for multiple authors, because all of this content is currently published under my name. So my writers write the content, but then it is published under my name. So I'm going to choose no here for this setting. And after that, let's click next. This next setting is not very important unless you want to use it. So this is about title separator, and you will need to enter your website name, which is pretty self-explanatory. After that, it asks you for title separator. And in case you're wondering what it is, if you look at some of the search results, you will see that some sites display every page with a separator and site name. For example, they've got the name of the post, then they've got the separator, this vertical line here, and then they've got their site name. So every single post that they have posted on their site will have the same format. They will have the post name, and then they will have vertical line Explore Minnesota. Now they don't enter this manually every time. They can just set this option inside Yoast SEO, and this will get added automatically. This was kind of popular about 2, 3, 4 years ago, to have the name of the website on each of the pages. I don't believe that this is necessary or that this is a good idea anymore. So I actually recommend for you to not use this option. So you can choose any title separator that you want. By default, I use this one, but in practice, once we are actually starting to publish the content, we never use this option anyway. So in effect, it doesn't really matter what you choose over here. So just click next. Next question here is whether you want to help Yoast SEO improve their data. So it's completely up to you whether you want to share your data. You can click yes, and if you don't want to share, click no, and then click next. Here in the last step on screen 9, you have got an option to join the contact list of Yoast SEO if you would like. You can also upgrade to the premium version. I don't really necessarily recommend it. I've never used the premium option myself, but if you would like to, you can certainly do so. We'll go over the premium features later. And lastly, you can attend some keyword research training. After you filled all of this out, let's just click next to finish the setup process. Success, it's now complete. Let's now click close to go back to the dashboard now that all the setup is complete. Now let's go through some of the important settings. If you are here under Yoast SEO, General tab, you should be in the dashboard area. There is nothing that you need to do on this page. So after that, let's click on features, and under the features, here are some of the important things that you should make sure that are enabled. Under SEO analysis, you will want to make sure that this is on. This is actually going to help you while you're writing your content to make sure that that content is optimized before you publish it. So very important that this is on. Readability analysis you'll want to have on. This will also help you make sure that your content is super optimized for search engines. Cornerstone content, generally have it as on. I will explain at a later stage what this does. Text link counter, leave that as on. This will count the amount of links on your blog post. Once again, this is one of the SEO metrics, so you want to make sure this is on. XML sitemaps, very important, have it on. This should be the default anyway. This will generate the sitemaps for your website that you can then submit to your Google Webmaster Tools, so that Google crawls your website properly, and other search engines can also find the sitemaps for your site to make sure that all of your posts get indexed and get maximum traffic. Admin bar menu, have that as on as well. The other couple of options are up to you. So security, no advanced or schema settings for authors. It doesn't really matter whether you go for on or off. Usage tracking, we went through that. I don't like to share my data, but you might choose to send your data anonymously. REST API head endpoint, I leave that as on. This will just allow other applications to connect to my site through the API, such as integration with other software, with external content creation tools, etc. If you don't want any of the tools to be able to connect to your site, you can set that to off, but really it doesn't really matter most of the time. Enhanced Slack sharing, you can leave that as on or off. Probably better to have it as off because I'm not going to be integrating Slack, which is the project management tool, with my website. After that, you can click Save Changes, and let's take a look at some of the other settings here under General tab. So under integrations, these don't really matter. If you're not using the SEMrush keyword tool, you can set that to off. If you're not using the right tool, then you can also set that to off. After that, click Save Changes, and we can go to the Webmaster Tools tab. Under the Webmaster Tools tab, this allows you to verify your website easily. This is not really required for Yoast SEO to work. Yoast SEO will work just fine without having anything in those sections. I don't worry about Baidu, Bing, or Yandex, but I always make sure that I'm verified with Google, and that is done through Google Search Console, so Google Webmaster Tools. If you currently don't have an account, I'm going to show you how to sign up to it. So just go to google.com/webmasters, or you can Google for Google Webmasters Tools. That will bring you to this page. So then just either sign up or sign in and click Search Console option. After you've gone through creating the Google Webmaster account, you can click this option here, get your Google verification code in Google Search Console. From there, you will see an option similar to this, where it will give you various ways of verifying your ownership of the website. So you can choose this HTML tag, and once you've got this tag here, this option, second one down, HTML tag. So copy this, and you can then paste that into this Google verification code and click Save Changes, and that will help you verify your website ownership through Google. You can see now that we've verified that. Let's click Verify button over here. And as you can see now, our domain ownership has been verified. It just makes it a lot easier than some of the other more messy methods of verifying the ownership of the website. Now let's look at some of the search appearance options. So under Yoast SEO, choose search appearance, and let's go through those. Make sure your website is completely correctly configured. So here at the top, you will see several tabs. Let's go through them one by one and talk about the options of what you need to enter. We've already covered title separator. You can choose any of them. I don't recommend using a title separator for SEO in 2020. They're just not necessary. So really, you can choose any one that you want. The next setting here is homepage and post page. So here, the main option here is this title and description for the homepage. What does this actually do? Let me give you an example. Let's say someone is searching for roofers in Sydney. You will see that the actual search page results look differently. In some of them, you will see this ... and in some of them, you will see a fully made sentence. So where you see the ... that means that the person, the owner of this website, did not actually specifically write a full and correct description to show in the search engine results. And some of them, like this person here, they have actually written a complete phrase that makes sense. All roofing services has a name in offering top level of roof installation and maintenance services for the customers in Sydney. So they have written this through a plugin or another software solution similar to this. So if you want your homepage to correctly be represented, for example, if you run a home business or perhaps a photography business, and a lot of your traffic is coming to your homepage, you will want to optimize it by clicking this link and then editing the SEO description on this link. For bloggers though, for me, for example, as an owner of TravelCroc, I don't get a lot of traffic to the travel.com homepage, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, so if you do get a lot of traffic to your homepage, I highly recommend that you optimize this. Once you click on this page, you will be presented with the option to edit your homepage. I've got nothing on my homepage simply because I did not set up a default homepage on travelcroc.com. But in your case, if you do have a homepage, then you would just go and fill out all the details for Yoast SEO, including the snippet to show under here, under meta description. I will show you a lot more of this later on in the tutorial, how to actually work through all of these options in posts and in pages. But for now, just want to leave you with that thought that this is what you could do if you wanted to. There shouldn't be anything else for you to do in this Search General tab. So just make sure you've got your organization name and organization logo, and let's move on to the next tab, which is Content Types. So here, the important thing is to make sure that you've got show posts and search results selected as yes, which should be the default option, and show SEO settings for posts you will also want to have as show, because you will want to use Yoast SEO on your posts to optimize them for SEO. Under SEO title, you might have a different setting here by default. I recommend to just have title like this. If you don't have anything at all, then you can click this insert variable, and that will give you the most common option. So just choose title here, and that will insert this option. The reason for this is, like I mentioned earlier, I just want to show by default in the search engines just the title of the posts. I don't want to show the name of my website because that dilutes SEO, and in my opinion this is not necessary. I only show the very, very relevant and very targeted keywords that are contained in the post title. I don't show anything else. So this tells Yoast SEO that in the future, once you publish your post, the title should consist of just the title of your post by default. Meta description, you should leave it blank. That's what I personally do. If you want a default meta description to be pre-populated for you for every blog post in the future, you can certainly do them. But at an individual post level in the future, as you're creating each of the posts, you can override this. You shouldn't have to change any of these options. That's what you need to have: web page and article. This is just to make sure that your articles in the future get indexed correctly. For pages, just make sure that it's the same. I've got yes, show, and title, and blank for default meta description. For legal pages, I've got that as exactly the same. I don't really care about the SEO titles for legal pages because I'm not trying to rank them. So you can literally have anything that you want over here. So once all of this is done, click save, and we can move on to the next tab. At this next option, I recommend that you set it to yes. There is a little bit of a description. If you want to read more about it, you can do this. Basically, this means that if you've got an attachment such as a PDF in your referenced in any of your blog posts, you just want the clicks onto that URL to go directly to the attachment itself, which is 99.9% of the time is what should actually be happening. So just set that to yes and click Save Changes. Under the Taxonomies tab, a couple of important options where it says categories and whether you want to show categories in search results. I recommend that you set that to no. That's most of the time this is the right setting. If you're wondering what this is, each of the categories has actually got its own URL, its own link on your website. For example, on TravelCroc, if I go to travelcroc.com/category/Australia, here are all of the blog posts that have got a category of Australia assigned to them. Each post can have more than one category and more than one tag. If you choose to let Google index all of the category pages, you will start having some duplicate content. For example, these few first sentences here, they will be indexed under this URL as well as under the individual blog post URL. I don't want any traffic coming to this page. I don't want them to be anywhere here. I don't want to waste Google's resources or think that I've got duplicate content on my site. So I want all of the traffic to be coming directly to the blog post and not to the category pages. So we want to set this show categories in search results option to no. Therefore, this option below it doesn't really matter because this will never come up in Google search results, and show SEO settings for categories, set that to hide. For the same reason, we want to make sure that tags is set to no and SEO settings for tags are set to hide. We don't want any of the search engine traffic to come to the tag pages. We want them to come directly to the actual pages where I want the traffic to go to. Under the formats, you want to set that to disabled as well. We don't really want to create any archives based around post formats. This is a feature in WordPress that pretty much nothing needs to be used. So set that to disabled. Where it says category URLs, whether remove the categories prefix. So this controls whether your category prefixes are travelcroc.com/category/Australia. If you set that to be removed, then it will just be travelcroc.com/Australia. I prefer them to be set to category Australia just for the purposes of being organized. So I set that to keep, and after that you can click Save Changes. Under the archives option, under author archive settings, I recommend to have that as disabled if you're not going to run a large website with multiple authors. If you do change it in the future, you can always come here and enable author archives. Under date archives, I also recommend to have that as disabled. This is just one more way for WordPress to show the archives of your posts. You don't want them to be indexed or for any of the traffic to go to those archives. You want it to land directly onto your blog post, so have that as disabled. Under special pages, I recommend to leave it as default. This is just for error pages. For example, if somebody searches something on your blog using a search box, or if they land on a page that's a broken URL, just leave that as default. This just controls what the user actually sees when they land on those special pages. So click Save Changes. Let's move on to the next tab. Under breadcrumbs, this used to be popular a few years ago, where at the top of the navigation you would have, let's say, homepage, then dash travel, then dash Australia, something like that, to ease the sort of the navigation. It doesn't really have any real bearing on SEO, and we're currently pretty much all the themes currently use menus. So I would just say don't worry about breadcrumbs unless for some particular reason you want to use them. 99% of the time it's set to disabled. So just set that and click Save Changes. The last tab, RSS settings. Barely anybody uses RSS these days. So once again, it doesn't really matter. You can just leave this as default. RSS is a way for other blogs and other services to pull content from your website, not steal it in any way. It's just to sort of direct the visitors onto your website, and you can leave this as default. This will ensure that if your content ever gets automatically pulled into another service, you will actually have a reference back to your blog, so you can get traffic that way. But 99.9% of the time, this doesn't really matter. Let's quickly review the settings under the social tab here on the left hand side. This should have been filled out during the initial setup wizard as we were working through. So you can see that I entered my Twitter username, for example. If you ever want to make changes, you can always come back to the social tab over here and update your Facebook page URL, Pinterest page URL, YouTube URL, etc. and then click Save Changes. There are a few more tabs specific to Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest. For example, if you ever want to confirm your site with Pinterest, you can enter the Pinterest confirmation code here. This just makes it easier to work with certain functions for the different social networks. Now let me show you how I use the Yoast SEO plugin to get maximum amount of traffic for my blog and maximum rankings. Let's look at the example of fall activities in Minnesota. So if I search for that term in Google, you can see that I currently rank here as position number 2. And I want to now show you what I have done with Yoast SEO and how you can do the same thing to rank your posts as high as possible. So let's click here under Edit Post. And with this, I am now taken inside the Edit interface. And this is where you will be spending most of your time when you're actually working with Yoast SEO on a day-to-day basis. So under the right-hand side, you can see that there is a block here that says Yoast SEO, and there are 2 happy green faces that say that readability analysis is good and SEO analysis is good. When you're first writing your blog post, these might be yellow or red. And as you're working with Yoast SEO, your goal is to make sure that these are green, and Yoast SEO essentially helps you make sure that you're following SEO best practices. So where do you find Yoast SEO? Well, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you will see that there is an extra section here that says Yoast SEO. So let's go through one by one and make sure that you know how to use this to get maximum traffic and the best rankings for your blog post. So in the first tab where it says SEO, focus key phrase is what you're trying to rank for. If you just enter something here, this will not mean that you will instantly rank higher in Google for this. This simply tells Yoast SEO that this is the key phrase that you want to optimize your content for, so that the rest of the options are looking at these key phrase, and so that Yoast understands what you're trying to achieve. The next section here, which says Google Preview, is a preview of how your blog post or your page or your article will come up in either mobile Google search results or desktop Google search results. So let's just cross-check that with actually how it appears right now. So we can see here on desktop, this is how I can see it, and this matches pretty closely exactly what I've got in here. Okay, so this just helps us understand how it will look. Now, if I change this SEO title here at the bottom to something like Fall Activities in Australia, you can see that this is the information that Yoast will send to Google as a result of this, and it's gone to yellow. We don't want that. We want it to be targeted to our focus key phrase. So let's just put that in. It's always a good idea to insert the actual key phrase that you're trying to rank for at the very start of your SEO title. Yoast will also track the length of your SEO title. Here it tells us that it's green and it's a pretty good length. The next option down is slug. So what is this slug? Slug is the link. So just this link here, if we open this, it determines the exact link after the .com/fall-activities-in-mn. If you want to change it from the default, then you can change that over here. So for example, if you wanted it to just be fall activities, you could do that by doing this. Or if you wanted it to be fall activities Minnesota, you can also do that over here just like that by changing this option in the slug. Next option down is this meta description. And this meta description determines what is shown in the so-called SEO snippet over here just below the title. So here, see what I've got displayed over here. I can change the default snippet to anything that I want it to be. It's usually a good idea if the default snippet contains the key phrase like we've got over here, and I can control through here what is actually displayed instead of Google deciding what to show here based on what else it can find on my page. The next option down here is SEO analysis. So SEO analysis is where you will want to make sure that as many of the items here are green as possible. As you can see, my page currently says that it's got 2 problems. It's got 1 opportunity for improvement and it's got 11 good results. You do not have to make sure that every single one is green because sometimes it's just not possible. For example, it says here key phrase density. It says the focus key phrase was found 2 times in the content. So that means that I've mentioned fall activities in MN just 2 times throughout the article. And that is actually okay because for some of the key phrases, it's not going to be possible to mention it, let's say 9 times. See how it says here, that's less than the recommended minimum of 9 times. But it's just not possible. It will not sound authentic and it will sound spammy if I keep inserting too many phrases with fall activities in MN into them. It just will not sound natural. So that's completely fine to overlook. Okay, but in general, you will want to make sure that this is mentioned as many times as possible, as long as it does not make your content appear repetitive. Also, it says key phrase in subheading. Use more key phrases or synonyms in your H2 and H3 subheadings. We've also mentioned that in here, but if I continue repeating this all the time, autumn, woods, classic, fall activities in MN in every subheading, this will just not sound natural. So I chose not to do this for the purposes of not sounding spammy. However, I did implement the rest of the recommendations and let's go through them now. So now it says improvement image alt attributes. So images on this page do not have alt attributes that reflect the topic of your text. And it's recommending for me to add the key phrase. So let's see how I would go about this. So if we look at any of these images that I've got on here, if we click on this image and then we edit this image, by choosing this option here, edit, I can actually change the alt text. For example, where it says alternative text over here, I can give this a tag that says falls activities in MN like this, and I can update this, and now this should drive the outcome over here. See, out of 17 images on this page, only 1 has an alt attribute that reflects the topic of your text. So we can go ahead and add a few more key phrases or synonyms into the alt text area of the images as I showed you before, and that will improve the SEO score of this page. Now let's go through the good results. So this is all the other items that Yoast SEO will track for you. And they will look at outbound links, whether you have actually included any outbound links in your text. And it's usually a good idea to include outbound links to 2 or several high quality websites. Under internal links, it also says that you have enough internal links. This is interlinking your posts with the rest of your website, which is, for example, under recommended reading. I've got some other links here that are going to other pages on my website. Key phrase in introduction, let's look at that. So this once again looks at whether you've got these fall activities in MN mentioned in the introduction, and it's a good idea to include it in the opening paragraph. So here I am actually starting this article with fall activities in MN. If you can work it in without sounding spammy, it's a really good idea. Key phrase length. Good job. So this determines whether key phrase is too long or too short. You will want to make sure that you get a green score for this if you can. Key phrase in meta description. So I have mentioned the key phrase over here in the meta description that we have written for search engines. So this is what this option does. Meta description length. Once again, this will tell you whether it's too short or too long. So for example, if we make it just like this, just meta description, see it's going to go into this improvement. It says that it's under 120 characters, up to 156 are available. So let's change this back, and this is now going to go back into the green section. This tracks whether I've previously used this key phrase. So it says that I have not. So this whole idea is that if I have 2 or 3 articles or more that are all targeting the same focus key phrase for activities in MN, that's not really very good for SEO, because then Google will be confused which of the pages to try and serve from our website. So you will want to have just one key phrase, the main key phrase per article that you publish. And Yoast SEO helps us there to understand whether this is something that we've done or not, or whether we're duplicating. Under text length, it says that I've got 2,771 words. So this is a good length. If you publish something that's too short, then Yoast SEO will tell you. Key phrase in title, I've got the key phrase in the title. Yoast SEO tracks that. SEO title width, once again, this controls how wide the SEO title is. And width just means the length of it. So if I make it too short, for example, if for SEO title I just use fall activities in MN, then this will tell me that it's too short. See, SEO title width, it's too short. So you want it to be descriptive enough. So now that we've changed that back, this has gone back to green. And lastly, it says key phrase in slug. More than half of your key phrase appears in slug. That's great. So the slug, once again, is what appears over here after .com/, and you will want to insert at least half of the keywords into the slug. We've done that here, so we get a green tick for that. The other settings over here, which are add related key phrase, this is a feature of SEO Premium. So if you are targeting more than one key phrase within your blog post, you can use this option. It's not something that I think is necessary. So if you wanted to do that and use Yoast SEO to optimize for multiple key phrases, you can definitely do that. But it's not something that I have ever done. I don't feel the need to. I usually optimize each of my blog posts for just one key phrase. And I find that as long as the content is high quality, that it will show up for multiple keywords if I mention them in the post and somewhere in the body of the article. Cornerstone content is not something that I personally use, but you definitely can if you are tracking cornerstone content, which is basically the pillar articles, the most important articles on your blog post. You can mark them as cornerstone content like this, and you can then easily find them and link to them from other articles, from the less important articles on your blog. This is not a feature that I personally use, but it's sometimes considered a good SEO practice. So if you have a massive guide, let's say a 5,000 word guide on how to do something, you can easily link to it from other articles using this cornerstone feature. Under the advanced setting over here, you've got a few more options which you shouldn't really ever have to touch. So you can, on a post by post basis, you can choose whether to show this post in search results, and usually you should have it as yes if you're trying to get traffic to it. Then it says, should search engines follow links in this post? Generally this should be a yes, because you will want any links that you insert in the post, you will want Google search engines to go to those links and index other pages and other articles on your website, so leave that as yes. Meta, robots, advanced, and canonical URN are slightly more advanced topics that I don't want to go into in this video, because really if you follow everything that we've talked about so far, you will have no problems making sure that your article is very well optimized for SEO and is positioned to get maximum traffic to your blog posts. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video useful, then please click the like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel just below. Enable all notifications to get notified about my new videos as soon as they're uploaded. Also, watch these next couple of videos that I've put at the top. They will help you get more traffic to your website or to your blog. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.